Hey folks, this is Randy with Destination Victor New York. Listen, today I am first off saying again that Destination Victor New York is highlighting the many reasons that Victor New York is a great destination to visit, live, work, shop, and invest. So that has not changed, but at the same time, it's very important, in my opinion, that we would, or I would, come out and express concerns about how things happen in government, and then sometimes how things don't happen in government. So there's a lot of people that have commented about the V3 survey, mostly that they didn't know about it. I would say at least 95% of what I would consider stakeholders that have a stake in what happens in Victor did not know, could have possibly known. If you were on the right mailing list, you got maybe even advance notice. But if you weren't on the right mailing list, the general public, the time was the problem. So they just basically announced it in, I think, October 1st. Might have been, they alluded to it just a little before then, but I think it was October 1st. And all of the surveys needed to be completed by the 15th. And I believe also there's an open call for project proposals. So from the 1st to the 15th, all that was supposed to happen for a grant proposal sent to New York State, New York Forward grant. So, and that's supposed to happen on the 7th. So within basically a month and 10 days, or 7 days, or however you want to count the numbers, this whole process is supposed to happen. What is definitely, I already can tell you, is going to be missing from the process is the public input on the projects that have been proposed. I want you to know though, and I'm going to put this up, that I very much appreciate her energy and professionalism. That's Emily, Emily S. Palumbos, okay, out of Canandaigua, and her firm EPS Consulting. My problem though is I just don't think there's enough time to do this right. I think everybody, more people should be at least know about what's going on, and especially if you're going to be applying for New York State grants. I can already tell you 100% the idea of bulldozing Mead Square Park and putting in rocks and stones and bricks and stuff like that is very unpopular. They're still trying to fight it up at the village and sort of spin it to where, well, this isn't the final concept, it's just a concept. But something is going to, if they have their way, something will be put forward as a proposal for grant money. And by the way, the village taxpayers are on the hook for paying the architectural design firm someplace close to 25 grand for a design that probably, I mean, most people didn't like. So something happened in the process that they put out a concept design that is so far off of what most people want that, I don't know, I'm sorry, but something went wrong there. And I know that for a fact. This is, well, okay, it's still my opinion, but it's based on a lot of surveying and a lot of feedback that I've heard from other people, even people just casually here enjoying the park. Yesterday, for instance, in Mead Square Park, there were at least 20 kids just running around and having a rip-roaring time, jumping on the benches, playing around, doing things. And I was thinking to myself, oh, sure, yeah, why don't you just replace the grass and the trees and the bushes and the benches with some really hard, jagged rocks? Because take a look at the design, the concept design shows that people will be sitting on rocks instead of benches. Yeah, they don't include any benches in what they showed. So they're gonna spin it and possibly get that in. But my concern is this. So this V3 survey process and all, I do believe that Emily's going to do a great job and EPS Consulting is going to do a great job considering the time frame. But the time frame's not long enough. I think I heard that there's at least 15 projects proposed. Some of the process here kind of seems to me be out of whack. I don't take everything that I got to say as gospel truth, but I think I asked more questions than most people, and at least 15 different projects, but there are email lists sent out to Parks and Recreation, to the school, I think Victor Hiking Trails, and then I know Friends of the Railroad sent some out, but using their email list to get some feedback on all this. I don't think that their email list alone is anywhere close to the number of people that should have been known about this and been involved in the process early on. And when I say early on, I'm talking October. Well, anyway, by sending it out and getting 15 projects, just like Mead Square Park, would be a terrible, terrible decision to follow up with what the concept drawing was or whatever the architecture came up. That's not just my opinion, it's most people's opinion. That I can say for sure. Most people do not think there needs to be that kind of change, and actually the majority don't think there needs to be any change. I believe there needs to be some change, but do we need to have an architectural design firm involved, and do we need to get grant money for maybe a few changes that need to happen? Even with grant money, by the way, doesn't mean that it isn't going to cost the taxpayers more money. I heard one of the consultants a while back tell somebody, just so that they would answer the survey the way they wanted them to, one of the consultants actually told the person when they asked, is this going to cost anything to the taxpayers, that he said no. Well, that wasn't true. First off, there was a fee that they took for even doing the grant to start with, which, by the way, that grant did not come through. And then secondly, just because you get grant money doesn't mean that pays for everything. That's just a little stipend oftentimes that the state kicks in for a project that the town or the village might want to do. Sometimes it pays for the whole thing, so that's not very common though. Usually it's just a small amount. Like for instance, there's an agricultural grant of some sort that the village just got to do sort of a pavilion type thing over where they do the farmers market, to help out with the farmers market. And also possibly some, maybe it'd be nice to have like parking where you didn't have to get into the elements, but you'd still have to walk through the rain or the snow or whatever to get over. So I don't know. But anyway, that grant, from my understanding, pretty much only pays for what's called an engineer's report. It doesn't pay for any of the construction. So I don't know how much the grant is or anything beyond that, other than you get grant money, and it may or may not even pay the basic stipend. So what I'm afraid of right now, in spite of the competency and the energy and the positive stuff that Emily S. Palumbos and ESP Consulting is bringing into this, is there's not enough time to get the feedback on the projects. There's at least one project, and probably out of the 15, there'd probably be about another 5 that if the general public knew about it, that live in the village, in that main area that they're trying to make improvements on, if the general public was even knowledgeable about what the projects are being proposed, they would want them not to be included in the grant. Now, what can happen is if there's too many things in the grant that are very unpopular that get submitted, then that's going to be probably the end of the whole grant. The whole process is going to get screwed up because you included some bad stuff in with probably some good stuff. There's probably 5 good ideas, 5 mediocre ideas, and 5 bad ideas that were proposed by whoever it was. And to do this all within 15 days, I almost think that most of the people that probably got their grant projects submitted probably knew it long before October 1st that this was all going to happen. So I guess I'm a little cynical now as far as how I see government and how it usually works. But regardless, do we want bad projects included? Should the general public have an open public forum on all projects that have been submitted that are potentially going to be included in the grant? My answer is 100% absolutely yes. Will that happen? I'm very, very doubtful, because I've been involved in the village government projects, and it's mostly the processes, it's not the intent. The intent and the ideas and doing all this was great. To do it within a month and 1 week, I don't know, within 45 days, to do this whole thing from start to scratch. What you'll get from the surveys that are part of it will be mostly what I call fluff and stuff. It doesn't really say anything about any projects. What comes from the project proposals, it's pretty much the consultant and talking to a few quote-unquote stakeholders as to whether or not it should be included or consolidated or excluded from the project. So then they're going to decide and then present it to the village board, I believe, just before, I don't know if it's going to be on the 20th. I don't think so, October 20th. I think it's going to be the last possible chance for our village representatives to supposedly, and I'm saying supposedly, represent our voice, because I don't think most of them get out and talk to too many people. I've seen how they kind of just talk in and amongst themselves mostly. So that's what I believe. That's why I think I've seen. I don't think they've done it like I do, and I'm not running for office, but I really go out of my way to try to find out what people think, and I want to stop the bad stuff from getting in to what otherwise could be a really good thing for the village and the town of Victor. So that's my intent. Destination Victor, New York is all about making Victor, New York, or amplifying the fact that it's already a great destination to visit, live, work, shop, and invest. And we want to continue on with that in ways that make sense. And that's basically it, which means sometimes constructive criticism. You're talking about government processes, in particular processes of our government. Maybe intents are great, but processes, I think, they stink terribly when it comes to maybe an actual actions speak louder than words, actually trying to involve people. Involving people in things that may make permanent changes to the village of Victor should not have been all done in 45 days. It has nothing to do with ESP Consulting LLC and Emily S. Palumbo and her people that are helping her. But there's some other people involved that I don't have as much confidence in. Let's just put it that way. Have a great one.